Hi guys, I will tell about a flashlight from the category of purely men's wishlist. Damn good looking, yet bright and functional, with choice of copper, bronze, titanium, stainless steel or aluminium body, HiCRI or ordinary bright XHP70.2 LED. All this is about Acebeam E70 EDC flashlight, so let's take a closer look at this masterpiece of Acebeam. The package is neat white cardboard box with magnetic cover. I wish I could say that kit includes everything, it doesn't. Battery is excluded. This is good for those who already have good 21700's battery and will be an extra expense for those who don't have one or who just buy a flashlight as a gift. I've never seen the point in all these velvet bags. I think that a holster is more appropriate to carry a flashlight in. To be fair, Acebeam E70 is an EDC flashlight, and personally for this kind of flashlights I never needed a holster, as I always carry an EDC flashlight in pocket. In reality, Acebeam E70 with its 130mm length can seem to be large only when it stands next to extremely compact for 21700's powered model, of course, Wurkas TS21. Here they are both actually. I'm sure that E70 has a normal length for a flashlight with reflector. And let's take a closer look at the flashlight itself. This is perhaps the very best flashlight design I have seen this year and one of the best I've ever seen at all. That's a matter of taste, of course, and I already got some comments from people who don't like this design. But I adore this design, especially copper and sandblasted titanium version. Copper should increase runtime in turbo mode, and titanium one just looks incredibly cool. By the way, such a combination of copper and blue reminds me of an ancient Egypt stuff. This flashlight has only one button at tail cap, but this is an Acebeam flashlight, so everything here is as it should be, both access to the button and the convenience of using it. And I also should notice that the body has two layers. The inner one is used to conduct the signal from button. I have to be objective in reviews, so I think that when winter comes and you wear gloves on, button may not be that convenient as when you use it with the bare hands. By the way, you can easily remove the lanyard, but installing it back is damn tricky. The clip is rigidly fastened with bolts, you can remove it if you don't need. And here's the knurring, unusual one, with cuts and blue anodizing of the inner layer of the body. There is every reason to expect that you'll collect debris and dirt into these cuts in knurring. You can also see the slots for glowing tritium installs here. There are springs at both sides, threads are well lubricated, and the overall build quality seems to be at the highest possible level, as usually for Acebeam. The head is removable, rather long due to the reflector, not TIR optic used here. I think that with such a size it would be quite possible to fit the charging connector in head, even if this would add an extra 4-5mm to the total length of the flashlight. Agree, the design is unusual in a good way as I see it, especially with all these tritium installs in. I don't think it was a good idea to make bezel with teeth, although they are not really sharp, but nevertheless, if you carry a flashlight in your pocket, then the bezel can tear a hole in it. There is a medium-sized textured reflector and either good old XHP XHP70.2 for a brighter version or barely known GT-FC40 for the HiCRI version with less brightness. Everything is fine at this stage. The flashlight has an amazing design and build quality. It fits comfortably and securely in the hand. Of the potential functional drawbacks, I will only note a possible inconvenience when pressing a button with gloves on. There is a big change in user interface. Now you have to press twice to turn the flashlight on. This is to prevent accidental turning the flashlight on, so it doesn't need to be locked. Brightness is stabilized here up to high mode, but turbo mode is nothing but tolerable, no more. This is not a marketing blitz turbo which you may meet in some compact EDC flashlights, useless and diving down from the very first second. E70 gives you 30 seconds before gradual descent starts, and this is more than enough for you to illuminate everything around within 100 meters. Well, somehow maybe even 200 meters, but I would like to see at least 45 seconds of turbo mode from from a flashlight with this size. I also expect that turbo will last way longer in copper version. As you may expect, the brightness drops immediately upon restarting, but even so you have enough time to use this falling brightness. Medium 1 mode is quite sufficient as basic walk-around light for both versions of E70, and it is totally good for indoor use. But I suppose you are likely to use mid 2 or high modes. Mid 2 mode seems to me to be the very most used mode for outdoor use. Excellent as walk-around light, will not blind people around you but let you see things in good radius. High mode will cover the vast majority of everyday needs at medium range. Just several years ago this 1000 lumens was a short-term turbo mode for any EDC flashlight, and now you have this brightness long-lasting and perfectly stabilized. I had two versions for review at the same time, and this allowed me to measure and compare maximum brightness of them, and Ruxmeter shows that XHP70.2 version is just 25% brighter than the HiCRI version. This gives 3500 lumens, far away from 46 promised in specs. And this is exactly the brightness that you may expect from the flashlight with one battery and one XHP70.2 LED. Also, other reviewers measured about 3800 lumens for cold white version. Mine one is 5000 Kelvins version, which is a little bit less bright, so this 3500 lumens of turbo mode is quite precise figure. But you know, I'm only glad that the real brightness in turbo is far less than stated. An inexperienced user will be surprised why. Let me tell you, even if there is 3500 lumens, just take a look, that is actually an impressive brightness, which is enough for an EDC flashlight. If turbo was close to promised, it would generate a lot of heat and make runtime way shorter. The difference between this GT-FC40 and XHP70.2 is vivid, both in quality and quantity of light. I definitely recommend HiCRI version for an experienced flashaholic, as E70 gives an exceptionally pleasant light here. And an ordinary user can safely take the brighter XHP70.2 version and not feel any inconvenience. Of course, I see no sense in buying cold white version unless you just prefer cold white light. And of course, there is no reason to expect any real throw at all. E70 is a pure medium-range flashlight. Both versions confidently cover 70 meters in high mode and 100.5 in turbo mode. The maximum brightness is something around a couple of hundreds meters, no more. You just can see it with your own eyes here. And overall impressions. Acebeam E70 seemed to me a very pleasant flashlight, a sort of intermediate in size between the once popular 26650 models and modern compacts. And as it is, let's be frank, a rather big flashlight by EDC standards, so E70 definitely won in the convenience and reliability of the grip, as well as in confidence of work at higher levels. The specifications of XHP70.2 versions are quite far from real, but regardless of the real numbers, the flashlight is more than fine with it, even with the less powerful and energy efficient GT-FC40 HiCRI LED. This one, by the way, gives an exceptionally pleasant light. Here you get both quality and quantity. Unfortunately, you will have to sacrifice runtime. This LED is less energy efficient. But being a bright flashlight is not the trump card of Acebeam E70. High brightness as is has become quite common for about 5 years already. And if you simply need high brightness, then you can find higher brightness in this or even smaller size. Just don't forget about the inverse relationship between brightness, size and runtime. Don't overestimate super compact and super bright flashlights, as they are unlikely able to handle higher modes without instant brightness step down. Well, there is nothing functionally unusual in E70, but this flashlight captivates with its appearance. For example, there is an excellent, inexpensive flashlight Wurkos TS21, which I've reviewed recently, but this flashlight has a totally ordinary and budget design. And Acebeam E70 has just the maximum possible individuality. It is absolutely impossible to confuse it with any other model on the market. It looks astonishing even in the basic black aluminum version. not to mention copper or sandblasted titanium version. If you want and can afford, you can even add ever-glowing tritium inserts, so flashlight will shine like Christmas tree. So the flashlight has the maximum possible gift potential, which is determined only by the thickness of your wallet and of course by taste, because the phrase gypsy style can be seen quite often in comments in my primary Russian-speaking review channel. So Acebeam E70 causes the expected polarity of opinions, and my opinion about design is totally positive. What else? That is impossible to ignore the fact that these good-looking cuts in knurling would collect all dust and dirt, and aside from this I don't see any serious functional disadvantages here. But there are a few things worth noting. Difficulty in installing the lanyard. That's a minor problem, and you'll definitely have to get used to double-click to turn the flashlight on. This is an unusual way, the logic of which I repeat I quite see and welcome. If I choose something that I personally wasn't happy with, it's runtime in turbo mode, which I'm sure could reach a minute. And let me remind you once again, in the end, if you want to choose a compact and bright EDC flashlight, then Acebeam E70 is only about bright. Acebeam E70 is not sort of super bright or just long-range flashlight. In my opinion, this flashlight is bought by those who just want a sort of good-looking man's thing with good functionality as a gift to yourself or to someone else. Just because you want it and you can afford it. You earn your money, why shouldn't you refuse to buy stuff you may not really need but just really want? Especially if that's not sort of useless good-looking gadget. Acebeam E70 is bright and useful. That is actually all.